From the get-go, I'm pleased to announce a new and long-term association with Jetcraft, the world's largest buyer and seller of executive aircraft. I love the synergy between Formula One's global reach and Jetcraft's worldwide inventory. And from time to time, I'm going to have a lot of fun, I know, looking at nuggets of crossover between travel and technology. Anyway, let's have a look at what happened at Silverstone today as the Formula One world prepared for the first ever qualifying sprint race, that to take place on Saturday afternoon. Well, Lewis Hamilton is on the pole, if you like, for qualifying. It was a little bit of a weird day like that, but a brilliant lap by Lewis, a brilliant first lap by Lewis. He lost it going into the second last corner of his second run in Q3. Had a bit of a moment, held the slide, but lost a tenth or two probably. So it's Lewis effectively on the pole for the qualifying race with Max Verstappen alongside him on a circuit that was on paper always going to suit Mercedes. I suppose what you could say after what's been happening recently, particularly at the French Grand Prix at Ricard, if Mercedes are not going to be super quick at Silverstone, then they're really, really in trouble. They did manage to pull it out. It was only by a tenth of a second that Lewis got that lap. As I say, the second lap, he lost it going into the second last corner. But it was a very good all-round performance from Mercedes. And for once, nobody at Mercedes or Lewis Hamilton can say we're getting blown away on the straights because the top speeds were just about even between all the runners. Let's just go through them before we go any further. Lewis Hamilton on that quickest lap, 322 kilometers an hour down Hangar straight. Max Verstappen 320. So Mercedes, if anything, had a slight advantage. There was a bit of talk afterwards about Valtteri Bottas towing Lewis, but Valtteri was 320. So if it was a tow, it was maybe 1 kilometre, maybe 2 at the most. But that was about the difference throughout the day. So I'm not sure that there was a tow involved in Lewis's lap. Valtteri did 320, same as Max Verstappen. Ferrari very quick as well now, 322. So everybody basically doing 320, 321, 322 down Hangar straight. Even Williams, George Russell, 321. Brilliant job by him again to get into Q3. The slowest actually in a straight line was Daniel Ricciardo, 319. And that may be an engine thing, maybe something else, because Lando Norris, 321 on his quickest lap. So McLaren not slow. They haven't been slow all year, and they're not really slow here at Silverstone, although Daniel Ricciardo complaining afterwards about his top speed. The only other thing to say about engines, I say Ferrari were quick. Charles Leclerc said to his engineer as he was coming at the end of qualifying, the engine sounded a bit funny on the in-lap. The engineer said, I'm sure it's okay, I'm sure it's okay. So we'll have to see how that pans out in terms of any engine problem for Charles Leclerc. So just to summarise the day's proceedings, the late start overall, 2:30 local time for FP1 for the first session, which was this 1 hour session basically to prepare for this qualifying session on the Friday, a completely new format for Formula One, of course. And in that first session, Mercedes initially pretty quick, out on the medium tyre, and they looked good in terms of lap time alongside Red Bull, who were on the hard tyre. They were 1 or 2 tenths quicker. So at that moment you thought, Mercedes back in the game again. Then Red Bull joined Mercedes on the medium tyre, and Max immediately went quickest 27.7. But it was impressive at this moment, I thought, to see both Mercedes drivers and the Mercedes team, obviously, doing long runs with both their drivers. We spoke about this yesterday, about how important this race is from a tyre point of view. And both Lewis and Valtteri at this point on Friday afternoon, FP1, did 11 laps each. And that's quite a lot around Silverstone. By the 10th lap, Lewis is saying, blister on the right front, blister on the right front. Interesting, it was on the right front, not the left front. But otherwise, the lap times didn't seem to fall away. Basically, Lewis lapping in the very low 30s and Valtteri around the mid 30s. So very impressive, as I say, to see Mercedes doing that. No other team did long runs like that. Red Bull then led the change to the soft tyre. Max straight away, very, very quick, 27.0. Although he had a bit of fun on the previous lap saying, I had no power coming out of the last corner, but he still did a 27.0. Lewis did a 27.7. And when he was told about Max's time on the radio, said something on the lines, where did those 7 tenths come from? And I guess that kind of summed up the morning. But I think looking back now, it's very clear that Mercedes did a very good job with those long runs on the medium tyre. Lewis was saying afterwards that he'd spent quite a lot of time in the sim this morning because it was a weird Friday with nothing to do on a Friday, so why not just sit in the sim and see what they can do. And I think it's very clear as a result of all that build-up that Mercedes has done a very good job, probably a better job it would seem than Red Bull, in adapting to the new stiffer rear Pirelli tyre. 2 psi lower at the rear as well. So it's a big change. As I said, that should be adaptable to with roll stiffness in the car. But Mercedes, I think, have just got it absolutely spot on. They look as if they've got the balance of the car absolutely perfect. And they've got a rear now that they can live with, which is really important, more important for Mercedes probably than any other team on the grid. So I suppose you can say, as one serious point, the new stiffer rear Pirelli seems to really work well on the Mercedes. Now, has it hurt the Red Bull? I guess that is the question that Max Verstappen is asking himself right now. He complained throughout the back end of that first session and indeed qualifying of understeer. So did Fernando Alonso as well, which suggests that the rears are dominating the car now in terms of the handling and the way it's working. Don't forget they're running the same construction front tyre. Pirelli have not stiffened the carcass of that tyre. And as a result of that, with the higher tyre pressure, it looks as if Max has got the worst balance he's had all year. Now, it's a big ask to think that maybe Red Bull have dropped the ball here in terms of setting up their car. But if Red Bull are good at anything, they're very, very good at initial design under the control of Adrian Newey, of course. They're very, very good on the ground in terms of strategy, how to run a team, how to motivate the drivers, pit stops, all that. They're really, really good. How good are they actually at setup work at the track, adapting quickly to geometry changes, things that we're talking about right now? Well, we're seeing it, I think, in this vortex of this weird Silverstone weekend. I say weird because of the different logistics involved. And it looks as if at the moment, as I say, Mercedes are doing a better job in terms of adapting to those tyres and getting the setup absolutely correct. And it could well be that here Mercedes have got an advantage in Lewis and Valtteri Bottas, because Valtteri, although he's struggling a little bit as a driver alongside Lewis Hamilton, he's very, very good technically and very systematic in the way his brain works. I'm not so sure that his counterpoint at Red Bull, Sergio Perez, is a Valtteri Bottas in that respect. So probably as a combination, Lewis and Valtteri have done more with the team than Max and Perez were able to do in terms of adaptation to this new Pirelli rear. I mean, we're talking very, very small differences here, but it could be significant, because if the tyres do go off on the Red Bull sooner than on the Mercedes, the front tyres that is, then it's going to be a relatively easy sprint win for Lewis Hamilton, which means pole position, of course, for the Grand Prix. There's another element to this sprint race and the qualifying today for the sprint race, and that is that in reality, when Formula One team principals and others say, oh, this is really good for the fans, it's great for the fans to have this second race, what are they really saying? Are they saying that we just love the spectacle of a start? Yeah, they're probably saying that, but they're also probably not meaning but not saying, and it'll be a chance for some of the guys that we don't normally get to see shining in a Grand Prix to do well. So who are those drivers today that have a chance to do something in a sprint race tomorrow that perhaps they wouldn't be able to do in the Grand Prix? And when I say that, I think the attention is immediately drawn to one C. Leclerc at Ferrari, who, if this was the grid for the Grand Prix, would be looking at, wow, P4, that's really good. If I can finish fourth and, I might get blown away by Perez, but I might be fifth, good race. But now he's got a sprint race ahead of him, everybody on the same tyres, no pit stops, and he can kind of go for it on the heading of, Charles Leclerc has got nothing to lose tomorrow. He hasn't got many points, really, relative to the Mercedes and Red Bull drivers. So if there's going to be a spark to this sprint race tomorrow, then it is going to be with drivers like Charles Leclerc in the position that he's in, ahead of Sergio Perez, and dare I say even Lando Norris has got quite a lot of points to be carrying around on his shoulders as well. So Charles Leclerc, let's just imagine it, is alongside Valtteri Bottas going into turn one. Is Bottas going to shut the gate, make life difficult, or is he going to think, oh, Leclerc's a bit of a maniac here, I'm going to give him room? That's an interesting point. And if Leclerc can get a run on, even on Max, as much of a racer as Max and Lewis are, if Leclerc's anywhere near them, I can't imagine they're going to put themselves in a position where they can have any sort of damage to the car or in any way compromise their starting position for the Grand Prix. So big opportunity for Charles Leclerc tomorrow, but a big opportunity for Formula One, more importantly, to see if the sprint race thing works. Because if it doesn't work for Charles, who is it going to work for? We know Perez is sort of going to drone around behind the Mercedes. And then there's Lando, who had as I said, they didn't run the soft tyre at McLaren this morning. and he did a good lap. He did a 26.8, which is basically the same as everybody else in the midfield there, high midfield, and probably has a lot more in it. If he'd run the soft tire, maybe he would have got more out of it in qualifying. But I think you've got to take your hat off to McLaren for thinking longer term as to what this weekend is all about. It's all about getting a good race in tomorrow. So they did their homework on the medium tyre, which presumably is the tyre they're going to race, and might get a decent grid position for the Grand Prix as a result. And Daniel Ricciardo kind of applies the same thing. So it's difficult to imagine Lando allowing his natural aggression to take hold of him in the sprint race either. He's probably going to be thinking, yeah, corporate McLaren, need to make sure I get a good finish here and get a good start for the Grand Prix. I'm being slightly cynical here, I guess, in the sense of, are drivers out there going to take more risk than others? But I do think that's what the sprint race is supposedly all about, is it not? And the other one, of course, is George Russell, who did an unbelievable job to the adulation of the crowd, and also Lando and Lewis as well. But George got massive support, and quite rightly so. 26.9, he's up there right behind Daniel Ricciardo. And if he makes a good start and he's in amongst the McLarens, he's not going to worry too much about front wing end plates and this and that, is he? He's going to try and go through, past as many cars as he can, and for the glory of Williams, try and finish, I don't know, top 6 or something. Here I should point out, of course, that this race carries points, but not a lot of points. 3 for a win, 2 for second, 1 for third, and that's it. But George won't be thinking of points, of course. He'll be thinking of, wouldn't it be brilliant to get a Williams P6 in the sprint race? I think that's how he'll be thinking. And then Carlos Sainz didn't have a very good day. I think he got a lap time deleted, and so did Sebastian Vettel, who made it through to the final 10. Let's just have a look at the drivers that didn't make it through, because it was really competitive. As I say, in Q2, there were 2 guys on 27.0, Perez and George. Great George, right behind Sergio, who got a time deleted. And then Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, both 27.1. Daniel going very well, I think. 27.2 Lando Norris. Well, Lando Norris 27.2, Alonso 27.2, Gasly 27.2, Ocon 27.3. It was really close. Fernando didn't make it, but was saying afterwards, traffic, there was 2/10 easily lost in traffic. So he's very annoyed, because he would be the sort of driver that would also enjoy this 100-kilometre sprint race we're going to have. It's sort of designed for an Alonso, or as I say, a Charles Leclerc. It's that sort of thing. A few other points from this morning. Good to see Charles Leclerc's helmet design for the British Grand Prix, celebrating Froilan Gonzalez's win for Ferrari in 1951 at Silverstone, the first World Championship Grand Prix win for Ferrari. Thumbs up to that one, Charles. And thumbs up to Lando Norris, who's got a big thank you to all the NHS workers on his helmet, the NHS workers here in the UK. Really nice touch, Lando. So there's a bit of understeer out there today. I'll tell you what, there wasn't much crosswind, because it was a beautiful day at Silverstone, 25 degrees, blue sky everywhere, very un-Silverstone-like. But lots of questions to be answered as we go into this qualifying sprint race for the Grand Prix. We'll see what happens there. Big thanks to Jetcraft. See you tomorrow.